We go. All right, kids, welcome to today's edition of the Kong Family Show. We're so excited today. We have an incredible guest here today, Gerald Kostecka. Gerald Kostecka, yes, and he's from California, and we're super excited to have him in here, and me and my ability to pronounce names and stuff. I'm sorry about that, Gerald, but we're here to have a little bit of fun today and share some value, share some great information, because what our goal is here in the Kong family is, it's really simple. Our goal is to change the world. And we're doing it. It's happening. We're doing it one person at a time. Make no bones about it. We are literally changing the world. And so, with that said, I wanna introduce my buddy, my fellow Kong brother, Mr. Shawn Wetzel from up there in Montana, and let him give a little introduction for Gerald here.
Well, thank you, J. John Surprise, if you please. Yeah, today's show is going to be fantastic. Again, unfortunately, we can't do it live and have this whole thing rolling like we wanted, but this is fantastic because we set our own time. And this beautiful human being and exceptional resource of Enagic has been kind enough to grace us with his presence today. And he's just going to give a lot of us an idea about, what he's done for not only, Enagic, but just the industry. He's got a great story. He's got great information. He's a great tool. And I've been blessed enough to become good friends with him over the last 7-8 years. And yeah, he's on point, saddled up, ready to ride with the Kong Brothers show. I was thinking about it earlier. If we just called it the Kong Show, they might think you were some type of version of Chuck Barris with a gong in your hand. And thank goodness we've gone from Kong Show to Kong Family Show. No, but I digress. Yeah, Gerald, how are you today, bud?
Hey, I'm doing excellent. I appreciate it. How are you doing, man?
Very well, man. We're up here in the big sky enjoying 50-degree weather with a good foot of snow on the ground still. So it's been quite an interesting spring. And what we've been telling everybody up around these parts is the groundhog is absolutely full of beans. He's a lying fool because we didn't get just 6 more weeks. We got about 8 more weeks, So what do you do other than roll with it like Steve Winwood, So yeah, thanks for being on the show with us today. Your story's fantastic. I've been fortunate enough to follow you over the last 10 years that I've been in it and get to know you, back, gosh, it's probably been closer to 10 years because I dived onto that scene flailing around looking for any type of leadership I could, and for me, I'm a big relationship builder. So I thought the best way to do it is go down and plug into the scenes where, the initial, stages of Enagic's people got rolling. And again, man, over the years, you've just proven yourself to be cut of a similar cloth. For the record, I like the fact that as we got talking, acknowledge this brother's Cherokee and, coming from Blackfeet country up this way, we kind of clicked right away. And yeah, dude, it's just really good to have you on here. So, again, give us a little brief rundown of your deal. I could share it for you. Here, let me do this. If I'm not mistaken, you were working with Daniel D. McCauley in a similar project, or another project, I should say. And he runs it by you. And what did he ask you to do?
So basically, I had been working with Danny for about 5 years prior to being introduced to Enagic. I was the director of sales and marketing for the company he was the chairman of. And at the end of 2006, we were wrapping that project. Basically, all our job was to do with that project was to build a user base for a telecom product that was substantial enough for the parent company to be able to do an IPO. And so at the end of 2006, we accomplished that feat. And so we went into 2007 kind of open to looking to a new project. And right off the bat in 2007, we actually jumped into prepaid legal. Because Daniel had a couple of connections. He's very well connected within the overall industry. And so we jumped into that. I found in the first 30 days that I had no passion for it whatsoever. And so I was like, hey man, yeah, this is all fine and dandy. This is a great company. They've got their stuff together. They've got a great product for people who need that. And I just said, but basically, you know, I am not passionate about prepaid legal services, so I'm going to be moving on. And so I did. I mean, it was within a month, you know, because I'm not one of these people who will pretend to be excited about something because I might be making a couple bucks, because I think that my faux excitement will influence somebody else to make a purchasing decision that I'll benefit financially from. I'm just not like that. You know, I need to really, if I'm going to get behind something, I need to really be able to get behind it. And so that's essentially what happened. And in February of 2007, Daniel was invited to a demonstration of the Enagic information by somebody that he had known for a very, very long time. And almost out of, I don't want to call it obligation, but let's be real. Let's all be real about it. It is out of obligation. You know, when somebody that you've known for a long time asks you, would you please come check this thing out? You know, they're asking you because they're hoping that you'll show up and that you will be enticed by the information that you're going to see and that you'll want to move forward. I mean, if we're going to be real, let's be real, okay? Because when you do invite somebody to something like that, that is what you're hoping for. You know, so let's not deny it. Let's embrace it. You know, because if we embrace it, we can figure it out. So Daniel went and was very skeptical, wouldn't be the right word, because he wasn't even open. That, you know, to be skeptical, you have to be willing to at least absorb the information. His initial, you know, exposure to Enagic, he was not impressed. He wasn't interested. And it was because all that they led with was the business. It was a real hard focus on the money, the money, the money, the money. And you have to realize we had just come out of a project. Well, that's all we were doing. You know, so it's like, I don't know if he was just looking for something more meaningful, or he, you know, just, it wasn't the right time. But basically, he contacted me after the fact because in our project previously, I kind of was the research and answer guy. You know, I was the one who found out, you know, I was, you know, the product that we were representing was using like VoIP, early VoIP technology, which is basically voice over internet protocol for like making a call, like doing what we're doing right now. You know, but it was early stages, so video wasn't even like interactive video like this, not even available. But people were using the internet to start making, you know, traditional telephone calls. And so I had to learn that entire industry, which was developing and coming to its own, which I did. Well, Danny contacted me and he said, hey man, I just saw this thing. I'm wondering if you could just take a look at a website for me. I just need to get your opinion. And I said, sure. I went onto the website, and to say I was unimpressed would be a complete understatement, you know, because I'm looking at this, and this is the company's website. This is not a distributor's website. This is the company's website. And there were misspellings on it. There were obvious grammatical errors. It was obvious it had been translated from a foreign language into English by somebody who didn't speak English. You know, it was kind of like that. And I'm looking at this, and I'm trying not to be too judgmental.
Help a brother out.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm trying not to be too judgmental by the appearance of the content. I was trying to look past that and look at the content. But when I first started looking at it, I swear the vibe I was getting was like, this is some weird, like, kumbaya infused water that, you know, I'll be sitting here like this, as I drink a glass of water type of thing. And I'm just like, what kind of new wave? You know, it's like, you know, put a crystal on top of your head and spin around in circles for an hour and, you know, I'll be grounded. That's what it felt like. And I was just like, man, this looks hokey and it's water. Now, I will say this. I was already a major water drinker. I had been my whole life. I grew up relatively, you know, we were not affluent by any stretch of the imagination. You know, I grew up with a single mother who was in the military as an enlisted personnel, and it was me and my sister and my mom. And so money was not something that just freely flowed, you know. However, the tap water did freely flow. And so that was what I normally drank. And that was just kind of the drink of my life, you know. Every now and again we'd have sodas or things but that was a rarity. You know, that was a luxury, not a staple of life, which it's like become these days, right? So I was already a big water drinker. So, drinking water was not something I had an aversion to. As a matter of fact, it's what I did. It was just something about, healthy water. And basically what I did is I let my bullheadedness, I guess, get the best of me, because I saw that. I reported back to Danny. I said, man, this looks like, I don't know what the heck this looks like, man. I said, it's not impressive to me at all, And so about a month later, Danny contacted me back again and said, hey, would you take a look at that website again for me? And I was thinking, okay, maybe there's something changed. Maybe they updated something. So I went onto the site. Nothing had changed at all. Not one thing. Not one correction had been made. Not one grammatical error had been revised. Nothing. It was exactly the same thing. And I was like, what the heck, man? So I called them back and I said, hey, man, listen, I just looked at that website again. Nothing's changed there and nothing's changed here. I said, I feel exactly the same way. And he said, okay. He goes, yeah, that's what my gut's telling me. He said, but I don't know, man. I have a feeling there's something here, right? And it was the month after that he contacted me and said, hey, listen, I'm going to join this program. And I was like, I honestly thought he had blown a gasket. I really did. I was like, because I know Daniel, and he does not get involved in a business program if he does not honestly believe he will be able to, after a sufficient amount of time to build it, get into the seven-figure earning potential. He won't do it, because he knows what he's capable of, and he has to make sure that the program he gets involved in is also capable of what he's capable of. So, just because you're capable of earning seven figures doesn't mean that the vehicle you're driving can run for seven figures. That's one of the important things. So when he said that, I was like, okay, man, well, he basically had told me he was connecting with it because he wanted me to help him out with a couple of like flyers or brochures. So he asked if I'd come in as kind of a consultant for him directly. And I said, sure. I could always use some extra dough. It's always nice to be able to, to maximize your time to bring in a little extra green. And so I said, okay. And at that point, I started doing some in-depth research beyond the Enagic website. I started really looking into the technology. I started looking into the history of this. I started looking into the history of ionization. But I was still like, okay, I will research this, but I ain't going to drink the Kool-Aid. That's basically how I felt, Well, Daniel started bringing me samples, and basically what I did for like the first couple of months of him, and literally a couple of months, he was bringing me samples 2 times a week. So probably, 2, 4, 6, 8, him coming to my house 16 to 20 times, bringing me fresh water. I was dumping it down the sink when he would call me, tell me he was on his way with a fresh batch, and because, I couldn't very well have full bottles of this water sitting there when he got there. I mean, I'd be like,
you couldn't.
No, it would have been a slap in the face to him if they would have been full. So I was like, I at least had to make, for appearance sake, make it appear like, yeah, this was happening, and I was doing him the favor he was asking me to do, But again, I was so set in my head that I wasn't gonna drink the Kool-Aid. That's how I was thinking. Right. And on this particular day, man, Danny calls me up. He says he's headed on his way over. I'm like, okay, no problem, buddy. And got off the phone with him, went to the kitchen, picked up the bottle, started dumping them into the sink. And Susan, my lovely wife, came into the kitchen, and she saw what I was doing, and she asked me. She said, "Hun, what are you doing?" And I said, well, Danny's on his way over, so I need to get these emptied, so I have empty containers for him when he gets here. And she said, and it was the way she said it, she said, "No, hon, I mean, what are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Why don't we at least give this a try?" And I'm thinking, oh, great. Now she's brainwashed. God, come on.
He's not as hard-headed.
Hey, I'll tell you what, though, man. I may be stubborn, I may be skeptical, but I'm not stupid. So when my wife told me we need to drink this, I said, okay, we'll start today.
Yeah.
So Daniel brought over that fresh batch of water, and that day, we literally actually started drinking it. Wow. Well, because we were all water drinkers, right? But I started seeing within a very short period of time some incredible changes with my wife and my son. It wasn't with me. I really didn't see any changes until we got our machine and I was drinking it at the full potency right out the spout. That's when I started seeing it. But their kind of tipping point, which is that, you know, getting into that improved health through hydration, you know, you have to get your body into the proper balance and properly hydrated for that to actually occur. Well, it occurred for them much faster than it did for me. Evidently, I was more acidic, and I needed a greater counterbalance to deal with what I had created. And so they started showing these improvements. That got my attention. That definitely got my attention. And as a result of that getting my attention, we actually sampled the water for about 3 months. And then I finally said, okay, you know what? November 3rd, 2007, man, that's when my application went in, and I picked up my machine from the office up in Torrance. So that's really kind of what did it all. And it was from the, you know, people, they come to me and they go, you know, I'm very skeptical. And I'm like, no, you're not. You don't even know what skepticism means, man. I started this, there was 9 months in between my initial introduction to this until I bought it. And about 6 months of that was me doing intensive research and actually having a better understanding of this technology and how the water actually affected the body and all those things than most people that had been in it for 5 years. You know, I was researching this thing for 6 months. So the people who say, I'm very skeptical, my response to that is good. Be skeptical, but be open-minded, because skepticism without open-mindedness is called stupidity. That's what it is. You're making a judgment about something without any information whatsoever. That's stupidity. If you look that up in the dictionary, that'll be the definition. And there might be a picture of someone you know right next to that definition, you know, to say, this is what it looks like. And in that, to begin with, it would have been me. But I learned a very valuable lesson, which was that I don't actually know everything. It came as quite a shock, I'll tell you that too. But once I kind of realized that I needed to say, look, I don't know everything, and I need to be open to possibilities, and I need to be open to things that might not even make sense to me initially. But once I had the chance to really take a look at it more in depth, understanding that dance that happens between liquid water and the human body, you know, how they interact with each other, and how, I mean, because think about it, you really have to think about it, man. Water is it's the second most important thing for any air-breathing animal, okay? Because, yeah, without air, we will die in, you know, a matter of minutes typically, okay? But the one that's right after that is water. You know, but if you really think about the universal need on this planet, water is the universal need, because it's the thing that every living creature on this planet needs. And somebody said to me, he said, well, so is air. And I said, no, it's not. Plants don't need air. They make it. But take water away from them, and they die. So it's like, no. It's the only thing on this planet that is a universal constant when it comes to living things is the need for liquid water. So if you can understand that by itself, it only stands to reason and makes sense that water is extremely important when it comes to life. And I don't mean life like driving your car to work and going to the grocery store. I mean like heart beating, lungs working, you know, blood pumping, life, the thing that actually keeps you alive, that will allow you to enjoy going to the store or going to the park or spending time with your family. So you need to get your head wrapped around the aspect of doing the things that you can for the best quality of life, physical life, so then you can actually lead the most quality-driven actual life. You know, of that, you know, from birth to death and everything in between type of thing. So that's my story. That's how I got here. And as a result, man, I just plowed forward.
You know, the thing is that I want to add real quick is that, you know, most people, I just thought of this because of what you were just saying right there, that most people that are out there today, they're alive, but they're not really living. And, you know, they're suffering with this or that or the other, and they're popping, you know, pills and getting bills. And you know, going to the doctor and all that kind of nonsense. And they're not even looking at the possibility, and people are so close-minded to the idea that the salvation to their health could be something so simple as water. And
well, you know, if you think about it, well, one of the problems is that you've got too many industries that have a vested interest in things beyond our health as an individual consumer. There are industries that are, I mean, I don't want to say that they're working together, but gosh, it really feels like they're working together, because you've got these companies over here that are making these processed foods that are there's no nutritional value, but they bring the price point down so much to where whether it's nutritional or not, we don't care. We're going to eat it because they've made it super salty or they've made it super sugary, which those are two things that our body, like, it goes, oh, okay, this is good. This is good. This is stuff that I need, you know. And so they've got all these foods. They've got these beverages that, like, you know, we used when we were younger to take corrosion off of batteries. Okay, let's put it in perspective. We took corrosion off of automobile batteries with this stuff, right? And at the same time, we're drinking a glass of it. I mean, that just doesn't compute. It's like, oh, no, I mean, yeah, this battery's tough, but it's not as tough as me. It's like, well, what do you think you're made out of, man? Because I don't know. Last time I checked, I'm made out of meat. You know, so it's like this is taking stuff off of metal. How in the world do you think it's affecting you on the inside? So once people can kind of wrap their heads around all these different industries that seem to work really you know, they might not be connected, but if you put a puzzle together, they'd be side by side. You know, because you've got the food industry with all the preservatives and processed foods. You've got the beverage industry, you know, that with all the different things and all these things that are very unhealthy for us. And then you've got this medical industry that instead of a doctor telling you, okay, so Mr. Kostecka, I've reviewed your chart, I've looked at all your stuff, and here's what I think you need to do. You need to get up off your butt and exercise more. You need to stop eating like a big stupid idiot and then eat things that are good for you. You need more fresh fruits and vegetables. You need to stop going to the 99-cent menu. These are the things that you need to do. And then a lot of people would go, oh, man, so I'm not going to be able to eat anything that I enjoy. I'm not going to be able to drink all this stuff. You are a quack. Because they'd rather go to somebody who simply says, Mr. Kostecka, you're completely unhealthy. Here's a prescription. And then 6 months later, here's another one. And 6 months later, here's another two to counteract those first two. And by the time you're done, you're just this walking medicine cabinet that still feels like crap, but you're sitting there scratching your head going, but all of these professionals keep telling me this is all I need. When the reality is what you need is to change. You need to not be influenced by commercials. You need to not be influenced by, this is it. No, you need to realize this isn't it. This is the thing that's causing your problems. If you don't want your problems, change what you're doing. See, change what you're doing. You know, I always use this as an analogy because I think it's very funny, is I will say, look, don't hit yourself in the head with a hammer and wonder why you have a headache all the time. Okay? Because it's self-inflicted. Exactly. But you know what? When a person takes that sugary coffee beverage that they go and buy from the Mermaid every day, they down that thing, and then 6 hours later they're starting to feel, or 3 hours later, they're starting to crash from the small caffeine burst that was there. So now they're looking around, they're like, well, it's not morning anymore, so I don't want to down coffee. It's afternoon, so obviously I have to drink a Red Bull or a Monster or something. And then they peg that down, it gives them that little poof. But it's all fake. It's all fake. You know, it's like a nitrous burn. You know, when you're driving, you need that little bit of it. You hit the nitrous. Well, that's just, it's in that moment, and then it's gone. And you got to think about the effect that's having. Let me ask you, for anybody who understands cars, okay, how many times do you think you can do a nitrous burn before you're going to kill your engine?
Right.
You know, put things in perspective. So it's like we've got all these industries that are working to our demise. And we feed right into it. You know, why? Because it's easier. But let me tell you what's not easier. You sitting in a bed in a hospital, it's your last days on this planet, your family's coming in, the people that you've loved your whole life are now seeing you just depleted and deteriorating, and they know that you're about to say your final goodbye to them. I'll tell you what, that's not easy. Anything else is simple compared to that, because what you're doing, you're letting all those people down, especially if they know that had you made some other choices earlier, not only would you not be in that bed in that moment, you wouldn't be in that bed ever. Right. That when your time came, it would probably be more under your, your terms, instead of the terms of what all these industries have kind of created.
Yeah, like the HooDeeeHoooooos, how they live to be 120 years old, and then they just don't wake up one morning. Exactly.
And it's not as a result of, we defibbed him 3 times in the last 4 days, and, we've got an artificial thing pumping the blood through the system. We're keeping him alive on this light switch. Don't anybody hit that light switch, okay? It doesn't do the lights. It does. Lights out. That's what it does. So I don't think anybody, let me ask you, in all seriousness, would you rather just go peacefully in your sleep and feel like you've led a fulfilled, purposeful and intentional life, or would you rather have the last visions, the last memories of you for your loved ones be you hooked up like a Frankenstein's monster in a cold, uncaring hospital room with people running around caring for your needs simply because they're getting a paycheck? Is that the legacy and memory you want to leave with your loved ones? Because it's not for me. It's not. I don't want to leave that. And the only way you can avoid that is by taking a little bit of personal responsibility for you. That's the other thing too, is nobody wants to take any personal responsibility for their own actions, the consequences of their own actions. Everybody just thinks well, I should just be able to take a pill, or I should be able to live carefree. Well, you can live carefree, but you're going to pay the price for that lifestyle. So instead of that, why not just figure out what are the smallest moves I can make to lead to the biggest results? And for a lot of people, one of the smallest and most significant changes you can make is what you're putting into your body as fuel, both on food side and beverage. Those are two of the, and if people understand that, look, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because, sugars are very that's the reason we like them. They're enjoyable. They taste good. There's that, our body goes through this actual transformation, when we're eating something, very sugary or, sweet or very savory, there's a desire that gets created for that, okay? Well, if you can just say, look, I need balance. Balance is about keeping everything in check. It's making sure that you're not doing too much of this or not enough of this. You're doing everything in balance. Well, if you could just get to the point where the majority, I'm not saying, see, right now, for a lot of people, the majority of what they're doing is all bad. It's 90% bad with maybe 10% good. There's certain fast food restaurants that have kids meals that have a crappy cheeseburger with that processed cheese food or whatever they call it, with French fries, a soda, and then apple slices. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, man, but the apple slices have just lost any kind of punch that they might have, because they have been outweighed by all the other junk for the rest of their meal, okay? If you just kind of realize, if I make some slight changes, and I try to do, even if it's going to be an 80-20, okay, 80% of the things that I do are going to be very good for me, because I'm still satisfying the primal urges and desires and needs that you have. The food that I put in my mouth, I'm only going to put in 20% of that's only going to be crap. Okay, only 20% will be crap. The other 80% I'll make sure is good, because the crap is so strong that 20% will just about balance out with 80% of good stuff. That's how bad that is, okay? But if you can cut certain things out, cut the sodas out completely. Just cut the soda. Sodas have no place anywhere. When sodas are a completely man-made concoction, when we send a probe to another planet, we do not look for the Mountain Dew spring. We look for liquid water, okay? So there's a difference of importance. And if you're smart enough to understand that this is a product, just like any other product, and the people who make it want you to consume it, and it's not because it's so good for you, it's because it makes them money. So if you could just kind of wrap your head around that and realize that's the case, then you can start making some basic changes that will have huge results. I tell people, look, if you're interested in anything about like nautical information, being on ships or boats or things of that nature, when you set your course, you're setting your course. So let's say that you're on course right now and you're headed here. What people have to understand is all you have to do is alter that course by half a degree. Half a degree. And in a month, you're in a completely different place, because that half a degree just moves you over enough to where instead of coming this way, after enough time, you're all the way over here. You're nowhere near where this end result is. And we just talked about where this end result is. It's that hospital room with you connected to a bunch of wires and probes and stuff. That's where that's headed. So why not just little tiny, it's not saying revamp your entire lifestyle and do everything completely different. But what's interesting to me, and what I have found, at least personally, is that the introduction into the Kangen water and health through hydration has created a domino effect, because it's like one thing ends up leading to another, whether that be introduction to a different concept or just more awareness to what I'm doing to myself, what I've been doing to my family. It was creating that awareness that then said, okay, so when I first bought my machine, November 3rd, 2007, okay, I had I didn't have a health scare, but I got scared by my health. If that makes sense. I stepped on a scale and it was almost 300 pounds. And that wasn't a health scare. I didn't have a stroke or a heart attack or something. I didn't like pass out I didn't have diet. I just looked at a number that scared the crap out of me. And I was like, oh man. And so I made it, when that happened, that was actually the beginning of 2007. This is kind of ironic how things worked out. Beginning of 2007, I step on a scale. Prior to that, when I was working with Daniel, I was drinking 3 Mega Monsters a day. Now, Mega Monsters are the ones that are so big, they have a twist cap instead of a pop top, okay? I was drinking 3 of those a day. My blood pressure was through the roof. My weight was affected. I was not doing anything. I stepped on that scale. I saw that 300 creeping up, and I said, that's it. I went out and bought pedometers the next day. We started walking 10,000 steps a day. We stopped doing any kind of fast food. We stopped any kind of sodas, any kind of sports drinks, any of that. I stopped all of them, cold turkey. I was like, no. My food bill went up 4 times because I started buying nothing but organic, non-GMO. We were going to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, we were being very selective. We did that for 3 months, and I didn't lose 1 pound. I kid you not. I didn't lose 1 pound. 10,000 steps a day. My knees were freaking killing me. They were killing me from all the basketball I played when I was younger. Now I'm walking around this stupid football field in Tustin at the high school, and I'm not losing any weight. And I'm sitting there going, why am I not losing any weight? I've changed all these things. And what I discovered, though, is that my body was still in an advanced state of acidosis. I was overly acidic. And so one of the natural defense mechanisms that your body will do is it holds on to fat because it's encapsulating these acidic things and kind of neutralizing them so they can't have a derogatory effect on the body other than the buildup of these fat cells that are encapsulating them, making you bigger and bigger and bigger.
Clogging your arteries.
Clogging your arteries, giving you the love handles. Where it actually builds up is right around your internal organs. That's why we have the spare tire and we have the love handles, because when you're overly acidic, your body's trying to protect you from yourself. It's trying to keep you from, it will allow you to die slower so you don't die fast. It's basically what it boils down to. Yeah. So we just, I said, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. 3 months, and I was like, okay, I'm done, man. I can't do this anymore. And so we didn't slip back into old habits, But I stopped doing the 10,000 steps each day. I started tailoring off. When we got introduced to this, and I really finally started drinking, I decided to buy the machine. November 3rd, 2007. In the first month that I owned the machine, I dropped 15 pounds.
Nice.
And I was like, okay. And I wasn't trying. All I did literally change the water I was drinking. Already drinking water. I'd already cut out all these other bad things from my life and everything. Lost 15 pounds. Go through the month of December, I lose another 10. So during the 2 months that I'm supposed to gain 25 pounds, it drops off of me. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow. Let me tell you what. If you don't believe there's a difference, go out and buy yourself 25 pounds worth of weights and just carry them around with you for a couple of days and then drop them. And I'm going to tell you, man, you will feel the difference. So all of a sudden, my blood pressure also kind of went into check. I was stage 2 hypertension prior to drinking this water. After we got that machine, after those first 60 days, I went and got my blood pressure done and everything, and I was normal. I hadn't taken any pills. I hadn't changed any aspect of my diet. All I did was change the water I was drinking. That was it. And so I realized, okay, you know what? There's something to this. There's definitely something to this. And it was about getting myself and my life back into a state of balance. But that created this domino effect where once I lost that weight, I became more active again, losing more weight. I was like, I started looking into more like natural type stuff. We went vegan for 2 years, completely vegan. Because I was like, hey, I saw this documentary and I was watching it. And again, I was being much more open-minded to stuff like that. I'm originally from Nebraska, okay? If you're originally from Nebraska, you literally are born with a ribeye in your mouth, okay? And it's corn-fed, baby. I mean, it's the best of the best. So it's like, for me to kill meat from my diet, that's like going to a Tyrannosaurus Rex and being like, hey, listen, just eat greens from now on. And then going, okay. That's what it was like. But what I discovered actually is that I discovered other things, basically just opened up new doors that allowed me to improve upon something that was already being improved. I was able to improve it even more so. And that's what will happen for most people. That's why most people, when they get introduced to this is the first step in what's going to end up being a lifelong change for them and a lifelong improvement, because one thing typically leads to another, and that other leads to something else even better. Look, I'm 50 years old. I turned 50 in September. I'm 50 years old. I am on 0 prescription medications, and that's because I don't need to be on any, okay? I got a couple of pounds I need to lose because I got to get off my butt and do more stuff, weight. But as far as my overall health, I'm in really great health, and most people my age, one, they look like they're 65, they act like they're 95, and they sound like they're 105. My aching back. My aching back. You're not supposed to be having an aching back until you're in your 60s or 70s, man. These are people in their 40s and 50s. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like thinking, wow, man. I don't know how.
Around like George Jefferson. Or no,
exactly.
Sanford.
Yeah. Red Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the, I'm coming. That's how people are acting. And the thing that gets me the most is that, people have this new mentality where they're like, I'm living for the weekend. Well, that means if you're living for the weekend, man, that means your life sucks. If that's what you're doing, if you're living for the weekend, it means the majority of your life stinks. The majority of your life is not what you want it to be if you're living for the weekend. So what you need to do is figure out how to live for every day and make every day the weekend. Because that's what I basically try to do. Every day is the weekend for me. I do what I want to do on a daily basis. Don't get me wrong, because I also do what I need to do, but what's ironic is that what I need to do is also what I want to do.
Nice.
Which is that's a good match.
No, you're beautiful, bud. And everything you said right there was just so compelling in the essence of just the direction it's taken you. And just sometimes I'm a little obstinate too. I share the sugar story. Now I'm making smoothies with spinach and flax seeds. I mean, things that I never even thought of drinking, those 64-ounce half gallons of pop have become such a distant memory, you know. Yep. But, you know, I want to be able to then, you know, like, so say, you know, kind of fast forward a little bit, because I don't know, for a lot of people is, you know, for one, we know anybody that knows of you on any real remote level, for starters, knows how to pronounce your last name. But no, just kidding. But
hey, look, trust me, I have definitely been called worse. So
no,
do not worry about that, okay? Do not worry about that. That's why I go by Jerry.
Hey, that's
nice
my
and easy. That's it. Hey, Jerry is fine, okay?
But see, again, that goes back to me growing up around Indian people, Blackfeet people. If you're named Robert, you go by Robert. If you're named Timothy, you go by Timothy. You know, Daniel's Daniel. Gerald is Gerald. And so in my mind, I've always kind of kept guys. I got, you know, Billy's buddies of mine. I call him William. And they laugh and they're like, hey, that's what my grandpa or that's what my mom calls me. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm you know, or I give them a nickname.
Right.
But no, that's why I've always kind of like, because I just like it. It's old school and it's solid as they come. But no, I want to now, for the people that don't really know you, I just want to be able to really emphasize not only, you know, your personal story, but what that is translated into. Would you say then that your experience and obviously your connectivity with Daniel and looking this on a broader scale then, was that kind of what steered you in the direction of developing these fantastic resources that have become absolute gold for distributors like myself? I mean, for people that don't know, can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. So when I was working with Daniel previously, okay, I had developed a few materials for that particular project. So I came up with all sorts of different things promoting our stuff. And I kind of enjoyed it because prior to that, I had no experience whatsoever in doing that. I had never made anything. I had, you know, I wrote when I was younger, but it was more about writing for my own, just for me more than anything else, more of a release than anything else. And when I got here and really got into it, the one area I really noticed that was lacking was professionally produced marketing materials. You know, a professionally produced calling card, if you will, for the and you'll be adding this one very shortly.
Nice, I wanted to get to that. That's right.
I just packaged it up actually. It's all ready to go, man. It'll be going out tomorrow.
I just ordered 2 packages of those today.
Yep.
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, I got to get some of those right now.
They're coming. They're coming. Yeah, it's all packaged up, JJ. It's ready to go, man. It's ready to go. So, you know, basically I saw this void, and initially I started putting together the consumer guide, and I was going to produce it and create it for my team. That's the only people that were going to have access to it. And it's when we still had the office in Santa Ana that we were doing a weekly meeting at. So I had an office there, and I would do my work and everything while the meeting was going on and during setup after that, because Daniel was usually the one who actually did the meeting itself. Well, people would come into my office and ask me questions all the time. And it just so happened that somebody walked into the office while I was working on this. They came in, they said, hey, what you working on? They came around and they saw the cover that I happened to be working on at the time. First thing they say is, oh my God, man, can I get a copy of that when it's done? And I'm like, first off, I'm not the type of person, if you ask me for something that's within reason, that I would say no. I just am not. So I said, yeah, it's probably going to be a little while longer, but once it gets done, I'll make sure I have a few copies. And I kid you not, man, evidently that person is the biggest gossip in the history of people, because by the end of the meeting, I must have had 20 other people come into my office asking me how many, you know, could I please reserve them some copies? And I'm going, are you kidding me? Next thing I know, before I even finished producing it, I literally had about 300 or 400 copies of these magazines spoken for. And I was like, okay, well, I guess that small print run I was planning on doing is now out the window. And so I ended up doing the consumer guide. I ended up doing a couple of other magazines. I ended up doing a couple of brochures. You know, I had written Ride the Wave. This was kind of the forefront of everything, is I'd written Ride the Wave as more of a, kind of a way for distributors to kind of get focused and learn some of the stuff that was like more pertinent right off the bat, instead of trudging through the learning curve as a result of personal experience. I was like, you can read through this and learn from personal experience. It's just not your personal experience. It's my personal experience. And basically, 30,000 plus copies of this has been sold. So I know for a fact people are getting some benefit out of it.
Yeah. How many editions do you have of that now, brother?
So we're now on the 6th edition.
6th edition.
It's available both in print and on electronic Kindle through Amazon.
Nice.
One of the things so a lot of people ask me, well, why are there so many editions? Well, it's a very basic reason. When we sold out of the first run, instead of just rerunning the same information, I looked at it, I sat down and I said, is anything different? Have I learned anything new? And I discovered that I had. And so the 2nd edition was a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, and it had a little bit more information. When the 3rd edition came, I did the exact same thing. So the 1st edition, I think it was roughly, 150 pages, approximately. And now in the 6th edition, we're at 256 pages.
Nice.
So it's been good. But yeah, so that's kind of the reason I did it. It was like I was actually making these things for my own team, because I knew there was this big missing piece that had we had it, it was going to make the process easier for our team. The reason, and I don't think a lot of people completely understand why something like this can be beneficial. And the reason is because when you're in an independent business, the likelihood that you're a water expert in our business, when you are introduced to this, the likelihood of you being a water expert is between slim and none, okay? And everybody that you know knows that, okay? So just because you sign a piece of paper saying that you're eligible to participate in a distributor program, and now you have this machine, it does not automatically make you an expert in that field, okay? And all of your relatives know that. So what you need is an independent verification that people can look at and say, okay, you know what? This information makes sense. Now, if you told them the exact same information at this, they're going to do this and look at you with this and be like, no, really, when did you become such an authority on this? But when they read something like this, their natural assumption is the person who put the information together is an authority. So this becomes an authoritative piece of information that now, and also because it's in print, there's something about some things that are in print, people look at them differently. It's tangible, exactly. Well, they know that these are not created on somebody's personal computer. They know you didn't just find some information on the internet, do a copy and paste, set it up, make it look nice, hit print, and then hand it out. No, they know that this went through a process of professional design, professional printing, all these different things. They know it. How do they know that? All they have to do is look at it. That's how you know. So when I realized that this was one of those things that was really missing, it really was missing in this particular project, I decided to take it upon myself and change that. Again, I'm one of those type of people that, I love to complain about stuff, but only if I'm going to do something about it. Otherwise, I'm not going to complain about it, man. I will deal with it, unless because just complaining about stuff without having some kind of like solution or at least possible option or something, it's just a waste of energy, man. It doesn't make any sense.
That's one of JJ's lines. There are no problems, just solutions.
Just solutions, man. That's all it is. And if you think about that, it's like, okay, but most people want to be like, oh, my life is all messed up because of this or because of that. And it's like, no, man, if your life is messed up, you need to go talk to the guy in the mirror, because they're the ones that are making it happen. Yeah. That's what's making it happen. You need to go talk to that person, have a really good heart-to-heart with that person and say, hey, you know what? Things aren't the way I want it to be. We need to change some things. Right. And then because, that's one of the first people you need to get in agreement with when it comes to what you're going to do to benefit your health and benefit your family. You need to have a sit-down. You need to have a one-on-one conversation with the person you see in the mirror. And once you kind of arrive at the conclusion that I could do things better, and this is how I'm going to do it, then just go out and do it. But instead of, I mean, try doing the complaints to the mirror. Complain to the mirror. And after a very short period of time, you will discover how stupid you sound.
Sick of hearing yourself.
You will get sick of hearing yourself, and just like everybody else is. But they're too polite to tell you and actually say, hey, look, you know what? But you know how they tell you? All of a sudden, they ain't hanging out with you anymore. All of a sudden, you're not seeing them as often. You're not. That's how you'll know. People get fed up with your take on life. So if people are getting fed up with your take on life, yeah, exactly. Well, you know what's funny? You know what's funny, though, Shawn? It's funny that you say that because some people, they get pissed off if you're overly positive.
Oh, I've gotten that too.
Because they're like, man, I hate this guy. He's always so happy. I'm always so miserable. It's like, no, don't hate somebody for that. Try to emulate that. Try to figure out what's making him so damn happy and try to figure it out for yourself.
God forbid we can have that level of happiness, the rest of our lives. We got to walk around telling everybody we need a backiotomy and we got this pill or surgery for it, No, that's huge, man. That's huge. And listen, okay, so, with all these resources, and I want to be able to give you a chance to plug them because, I give them to my new distributors every chance I can because they're just the primary go-to resources. And I do want to plug this wagon tail thing, that's going to be neat. I got to get my hands on that too. But, I've talked to, a lot of people, man. Everybody puckers up and everybody wants the cheap route, and look, you've been exceptionally proficient and thorough in all your detail of breaking down the competition. Can you briefly just touch on why Enagic and how easily they separate themselves from the knockoff artists? Because I had a buddy of mine, his wife was really on it for a while, and then ultimately, God bless her, said, I just can't afford to finance one of the Enagic machines, and we didn't even get to talk directly even about the Junior. Right. She went out and bought a Life or, one of these tie-ins, and now I've had 7 other people do that over the years, and they've all eventually come back and bought an Enagic one due to the lack of comparison. But, I can't save her from that decision now. But, I'm going to be able to share this with anybody else in a similar situation. You being the most proficient expert that I've seen in terms of anybody that has dug as deeply and thoroughly as you have into not just Enagic, but this whole industry, as briefly and as comfortably as you can, drop it on us as to why Enagic separates itself so much. If you would, please. And I'm going to have some water real quick.
Okay, you do your thing, man. So basically, the question of why Enagic, I actually did a call with Michelle Rayleigh about a week ago, and that was the sole topic of the discussion was why Enagic. And really what it boils down to is getting value is really what it boils down to. Value for your money. Anything can be made cheaper. All you have to do is scrimp on quality. I mean, it's a pretty easy thing. I mean, if you want to see a quality difference, go to a 99-cent store, go to a dollar store, look at the quality of the products that are there, and then go to a high-end store and look at the quality of the products that are there. I mean, there's a reason that the products are at the 99-cent store are at the 99-cent store. It's because they are of such low quality that the manufacturers and the retail store can actually still make money off of selling a product that they're only selling for 99 cents. So what people have to understand is that, a product that costs 99 cents at a discount store like that, it's not worth 99 cents. If worth and value are being dictated by the cost that it actually costs to make it. If it was worth that, it wouldn't sell for that, which means the things that people are running out and buying for, 99 cents, even let's say you buy 10 items and with tax and everything, it's $10. Well, if the $10 worth of products that you have are actually only worth in real terms 50 cents, are you really getting a value for your money? You know, so that's really what it boils down to when it comes to these other products, is that Enagic does have the highest quality products in the industry, period. You know, and they not only have the highest quality, they also have the most effective. And I would think if a person's going to spend any sizable amount of money, okay, any sizable amount of money, that they're going to want quality over quantity. They're going to want dependability and you know, effectiveness over anything else, okay? The bottom line really, when it comes down to the products, is that people afford what they want to afford. And it's, you know, sometimes it sucks to say that because, you know, people will go, well, that's not true. And it's like, really? Have you ever known somebody who smokes? They're always broke, but they always have a smoke. How is that possible? Especially now, man. Cigarettes are like $18 a freaking pack or something now. It's like insane. But there's still people who smoke. And it's like, well, wait a second. That means you are making a conscious choice to take your financial resources and put them towards something that you've decided is more important than other things. That's what it's about. Anybody can afford these products, period. Anybody can afford these products, but they have to want it. They have to want to afford it. So the people, and trust me, man, when I first came into this, you have to understand, when I decided to buy my machine, I had just spent 9, 10, 11 months basically having very limited income coming in. I did the same thing a minute ago when I took a drink. I was so excited, I breathed in. It's like, I was killing myself. But basically, there's these, I don't know, man. It gets frustrating for me because I think people are smarter than their actions, you know, but they end up doing things that's hurting themselves. And, you know, they're trying to put the price of this above the value and worth of this, you know. This isn't just about buying a product, you know. It's not just about buying a product. This is about buying a product that has the potential to really make a positive impact for you and your entire family. You need to start creating like a checklist of value of that. You know, if I don't know, if you're properly hydrated, the potential of getting a you know, forming some type of issue as a result of, you know, chronic dehydration being the base of that. If you're properly hydrated and that doesn't happen, can you quantify that with a number? You know, what's that worth? You know, if your child, okay, as a result, you have this machine, okay, you end up having a baby. And because you have this machine, you're thinking those other things. Remember those dominoes I talked about? So you're thinking about other things. So now as your child is getting older, you're not giving your child, you know, the loaded sugar stuff. You're not letting them drink sodas. You know, they're drinking this, they're eating better and everything. And your child goes through their entire life never getting diabetes, never getting cancer, because they started their life healthy to begin with, and they just led a healthy lifestyle as a result of what you exposed them to with this machine. Now let me ask you that. If you could say a person's whole life went through and they didn't have any major issues or anything, what would that be worth? It's speculative, but what would that be worth?
Yeah, you can't put a price tag.
You can't put it, but you could, because if you backtrack and you spend you decide I'm either not going to buy it at all, or I'm going to buy this cheaper thing that doesn't do the same thing, and then all of a sudden as time progresses, the results end up changing, and now your child at 30 years old is injecting insulin because they're diabetic. Right. Then you could say, wow, I think that extra $2,000 would have been worth it. But you don't want to have to be in that reality to be able to come to that conclusion. You know, so it's like people need to think a little bit. And I know it's hard to think, but it's like, for God's sake, let's do this in a way that makes sense. You know, it's like you cannot throw caution to the wind and expect your life to be fantastic. You can't. You're going to end up dealing with the consequences of those particular actions. So, and everything is actions. You decide to buy a different machine, hey, go ahead. But like you said, Shawn, how many of those people bought a different machine in the name of saving money, and then they realized they wasted their money on that, and they actually ended up spending more in the long run because they buy our machine and they can't return that other one because of all the fine print that they've got. So now they thought they had recourse. They can't even return the damn thing.
Warranty.
Exactly. So now you've got this, instead of I find it funny. Somebody tells me that they can't afford $4,000, but they end up spending $6,000.
Right.
Well, how in the world did you afford $6,000? It's not. They went cheap to begin with, learned that lesson the hard way, and then had to end up getting the thing that they knew was going to benefit them in the first. So why not skip out the middleman and save yourself $2,000 and go to Hawaii or something?
Right.
Come on.
And I think go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so, I mean, that's really, when it comes to these other brands, it's really a matter of a little bit of consumer common sense. I think we all know as consumers that when somebody tells us this is the exact same thing, only cheaper, that person's a liar. Yeah. Period. We know that, okay? How many as seen on TV products have we seen? Oh, this is so great. But order this up. You order it up, you use it one time, the damn thing breaks. And you're like, wow, maybe I shouldn't have gone with this super cheap thing I saw, and they made it all razzly-dazzly, and that's what got me to act in the first place. Look, you want to know what gets people to act in the first place with these other brands? Deceit, misinformation, emotional, all of the to purchase our products, the merit of the product, the effectiveness of the product. So which would you, as a consumer, which would you rather do? Buy as a result of effectiveness or trickery?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's answers itself. Wouldn't you say that speaks then? And again, we're always talking about how we want to change the world and, one glass at a Kangen 9.5 at a time. But even at the outside of that, that's kind of a fun little shtick to say. But, I've always kind of really become aware in the last several years of just the absolute indoctrination of our society, where we don't do our homework. We ask Siri or we watch a commercial, and it might have 10 seconds of this pharmaceutical drug for my asthma on it, but the next 40 seconds are all the side effects, and there's like 15, 20 of them. So when we're saying we want to change the world, to me, it's really, I want to start improving people's critical thinking, giving them the conscious level of, look, you can make good decisions. You don't just have to obliviously be running around chasing your tail, doing what everyone else is doing. And I think we are starting to do that. I've had people come on that talked to them 10 years ago. They gave me grief, and now they're still asking me if I'm doing that water thing, and I'm like, yeah, this water thing's doing me. I'm just happy to be along for the ride.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because we're waking people up. Yeah. No, we're waking people up. And, again.
Well, that's really, you want to know something, Shawn? I think the reason that the distributors they're actively, pursuing the magic business, the reason we have the potential to make the money that we do is because of the enormity of what we have to achieve, which is exactly what you said. We need to re-educate the consumer. That's a major undertaking, okay? Why? Because we are being challenged on a daily basis with billions of dollars being spent on advertising to convince people that that they can do whatever they want, consequence-free. We've got a pill for that, and it's like, that's one of the reasons that we have the potential to make the money we do, because our task is actually very difficult. It's rewarding. It's got merit. It's commendable. But you know what? Trying to change the way a person thinks is a very difficult premise. And that's why one of the things that I always recommend to people is share the water, because the experience will often be the thing that will change a person's perspective. It's what changed mine. The experience of what I saw with my wife and son. That's what kind of like, got me. Wow. So, sharing information is always good. Sharing information like the magazines or the brochures or things like that, or even just talking to somebody about it, it's very good as a corroborating item. But the water will speak for the water can do the heavy lifting that you simply cannot do. Shawn, I'm going to tell you something. I'm actually a very good salesman when it's something that I believe in. I've got a little gift of the gab type of thing. I can actually string sentences together that are coherent. It makes sense.
Nice.
But I can't talk dehydration out of somebody.
You ain't lying.
I can't. No matter how hard I try, man. I could try and try and try. But you know what? I could give somebody a glass of water, and it can do what I cannot. And that's why I am a firm believer in sharing the water, because at the end of the day, the water has abilities that if the person who's drinking it is really giving it the chance to allow them to become properly hydrated, they will see a difference.
The water will tell them their own story, like it.
Exactly. And then you don't have to try to convince somebody of something. You don't have to try to change their mind. The easiest way to change a person's mind is to allow them to do it themselves.
Yeah. No.
That's the easiest way. You just have to present them with the information, with the documentation, with the everything to have that chance. And that's I think why we as distributors actually have such a potential when it comes to the business side, is because that's a real uphill battle. But you know what? It's one that we're winning. We're constantly gaining ground, and we're getting closer and closer to the masses having a better understanding of what's been perpetrated on them over the last 50 years by industries that are eager for your money but don't care whether or not they lose you as a consumer.
Right. You know, Gerald, I'd like to have you elaborate on just a couple of things here that, you know, from what you've been talking about. You know, we're always trying to bring value, you know, and I met a gal the other day who's had her Kangen water machine for over a year, and her husband has still not even taken a drink. And he won't touch it. And obviously that kind of person is somebody who's going to need, you know, the only way to get to that somebody is to somehow, you know, hit their heartstring, hit their brain cell with something that lights them up. And all of a sudden they go, whoa, hold on a second. Maybe I should look at this. And so, you know, number one, I'm curious about, you bought your machine in November of 2007.
Correct.
And is that machine still working?
That's the one on my counter in my kitchen.
Yeah. So, you know,
same machine, man. Same machine. And it looks brand new.
And, you know, my first meeting I ever went to, I met this old fella who has had his machine for 35 years. He said it still works just as good today as it worked when I smuggled it from Japan 35 years ago. And, you know, and so that kind of thing, that really talks about the value. When you look at something that lasts that long, you know, these things, if they're built, I always say they're built like a brick shit house, man. They're meant to last forever. And they're built in such a way that there's just nothing out there that's even close to the way they're built. And, you know, so that's some incredible value. But this morning, when I watched your little presentation about the heads, or the heads and tails, I looked at that and I went, oh my Lord, I have got to have that. And one of the main things, the first thing that came through my brain cell about that was, there are people out there who they care more about their critters, they care more about their puppy and their kitty than they do about themselves.
Yep.
And so what I'd like to know from you is, you know, and because I'm going to learn this, because I already got them on order. I'm looking forward to when they show up. I'm going to have them with me everywhere I go. I'm going to be sharing those things forevermore. But the thing is where did the inspiration for that come from? Did you run into some veterinarians or something that were using it? How did all that come about, where you decided that you needed to put this thing together, talking, you know, on the pet side of things?
Gotcha. You know, actually, I am very well aware that the way people are with their pets, you know, especially in America, you know, your cat or dog is not a pet; it's a family member. Okay, that's the vast majority of people. Okay, and there is usually more love for an animal in a person's life than there is for the people in that person's life. Why? Because people are judgmental. You know, people are. You know, they will you know, decide that what you're doing is either wrong or right, or, you know, that's just the way people are. Whereas, you know, when you have a pet, man, they're just happy to see you when you get home. Yeah. They don't care how terrible your day was. They want to make it better. You know, they don't care how terrible their day was. They want to make yours better. They're happy to see you every time. And I think that's the reason that people have animal companions. So the real motivation behind this was that fact. You know, it was to share with people that this is not just for people, you know, that, pets are people too. I mean, that's kind of what it boiled down to. Let me tell you something, okay? I'm going to tell you something about that lady with her husband. So a lot of times what you have to do is you have to go beyond the individual, because a person's hot button might not be them, okay? For me, I'm going to tell you this. Had I seen immediate results when I started sampling the water for real and not seen any results for my wife or son, we would not be having this conversation right now, because I would have never gotten involved with the magic. However, two of the most important people in my life, I saw the action. I saw improvement. And that had a profound effect on me. So I've got a story that I tell people sometimes, and it's a true story with one of our friends. It's actually, there's a lady named Barb Kester. Barb and Chuck have been friends of my wife and her family since Susan was literally, Susan's 40-something. I don't know how old she is anymore. She looks 20 to me. 39, I don't know. 39. Yeah, she's 29. There you go. But I've seen pictures of Barb holding Susan as a baby. Oh. That's how long she's been around her family. Nice. Well, Barb had a laundry list of problems. I mean, like a lot of issues when we first got the machine and everything. So Susan asked me, she said, "Hun, I would really mean a lot to me if we could sample Barb." Now, at the time, we were living in Tustin, and Barb lives in Anaheim. She lives just past Disneyland. And it's a little bit of a drive, you know, and I told her, I said, okay, that's fine. I'll commit to it. We'll take water over there, you know, and I'll bring them fresh water and let them try it out. So we had done that for about, it was only about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. And we came over to drop off the fresh batch. And as I brought the water in, I went to the kitchen to put it in there, and I looked down on the floor, and on the floor were 5 3-liter bottles of Shasta soda on the floor. And I was like, what the hell? So I just went up to the fridge and I opened up it real quick, and there were 3 more bottles in the fridge. So there were 8 3-liter bottles of Shasta soda, different flavors and everything, but 8 3-liter. You do the math, man. That's like a barrel full of Shasta sodas. So I went back into the living room. Barb was in her bedroom getting something. So it was just Susan and I that were out in the living room. And I turned to Susan and I said, just so you know, this is it. We're done. I ain't doing this again. I am not going to do this again. I'm taking my time, my money, come over here, bring them water. I said, there's 8 3-liter bottles of soda in her freaking kitchen right now that they just went to the store that day and bought them. Oh. And so Susan said, oh, honey, please don't do that. Please, they really need it. I said, Boo, I cannot care more about their health than they do. I can't. It doesn't work. And she said, okay, would you just try talking to him one more time? And I said, fine. So Barb came out. I said, Barb, you know what? Get Chuck. Chuck was out doing something. He came in. They both sat down.
Get real.
It was about to get real because I told Susan. I told her. I said, sweetheart, you know fighting terms, right? She said, yes. I said, okay, I'm going to be hitting below the belt. I'm just going to let you know that. So just be ready for it. And she said, okay. She said, you do whatever you need to. So Barb and Chuck came in, and they were all cordial and sat down, and I was all cordial, and I said, hey, guys, okay, listen, I just need to talk to you about something. First off, I cannot care more about your health than you do. Bottom line. And my tone changed, and I was like, I just went in your kitchen. You have enough soda in there to kill a person. I said, I didn't understand what you're doing. I said, I was willing to make the sacrifice of bringing this over here, taking my time, spending my money on the gas. I never asked you for a dime to compensate for that. I was driving, I think it was a good 25 miles, so 50 miles round trip, just to bring this to them. And I was bringing it I wasn't bringing it to their doorstep. I brought it to their kitchen counter. That's how, all the way. So then I said to Barb, I said, look, if you don't love your grandkids enough to want to be there for their high school graduations, you just keep doing what you're doing. Oh, man, she got pissed. I bet. What? You don't think I love my grandkids? Yeah. And then I was like, Barb, you can say all you want, but your actions are speaking a different tune. I said, you can tell me that you love them, but you're doing things to put yourself in an early grave. I said, they only have a few more years to go until they graduate. You keep doing stuff like that, you ain't going to be there for it. And I said, that's just the bottom line, because her health had really, really gotten bad. So I said, look, all I was asking for you is give this an actual chance. That's it. Give it an actual chance. That means don't drink that stuff for 2 weeks. Only drink this stuff for 2 weeks. If after that you haven't felt anything and doing it for real, I said, I'll never bother you about it again.
Amen.
Fine. Fine. Okay, fine. Man, like 3 days later, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how much energy I have. I'm running around the whole house. I've cleaned the whole house up. It's amazing. I cannot believe this. A week later, okay, how do we buy one of these?
Right. Nice.
Okay. Barb's still with us. And I kid you not, man, she was not doing well. She was not doing well. And she probably, I mean, realistically, she would have probably only had about a year or two left had she not decided to make that change. Matter of fact, it's not going to be a very good picture. Let me see if I can do this right. But, whoops.
Yeah. There you go.
That is actually her.
Wow.
The one where she's standing there looks like she's about to die.
Yeah.
That was the other one 7 years later. In the dress, it's 7 years later.
Man,
We saved her life.
Yeah.
We saved her life. And you know what? Susan was just at her house for the last 5 days in Anaheim. She went there, spent a few days. They went and did their shopping thing. They got to see each other. That wouldn't have happened. She was there for both of her kids' grandkids' high school graduations. It's like it impacted her life in such a way that I know, and now it's so funny. She always says to me, Jerry, thank you so much for not giving up on me. Thank you for not doing the easy thing. Thank you for challenging what I was doing. Thank you. And when you have somebody thanking you for like being a dick, I'm sorry. It's like, but it's like, and I know what she means though. And you know what? I was like, Barb, it was my pleasure.
Yeah.
But no, it did mean a lot to me though, because it meant a lot to my wife. It meant a lot to my wife. And as a result, she's gotten a good decade more of being able to be around somebody that she loves. She loves, man. This is like a second mom to my wife. And it's like, it just, when it comes to other people, don't make it about them. To that lady's husband, if they have any kids or grandkids of their own, just say, hey, look, if you don't love them enough to want to be here as long as possible, that's fine. Don't drink the water. Don't. Let life throw at you whatever it's going to do. But
drink your 40 grams of sugar per serving.
Exactly. But if you do care about the other people, see, that's the reason sometimes it doesn't work when you're talking to an individual about it, because you're talking about an individual and improvements for that individual. A lot of people don't care that much about themselves. Yeah. So you're speaking to deaf ears. They're like, oh yeah, all I hear you saying is me. But if I don't care about me, you're speaking the wrong language. So what you need to do is find out who the them is in their life, and then speak on the them. And when you speak on the them, it's going to affect them, that person differently. So that's my recommendation in that area is, of course, make it about the person, but make it about the person in a more well-rounded, like whole life type thing, with things that are important to them.
Relationships, kids,
exactly.
Dogs,
tap into that. Yep. And dogs, cats, kids, friends, neighbors, whatever, the people that are important to them. When you start making it about them, then they will listen. They will see. You got to know what a person's hot buttons are. Shawn, if I came to you and I met you and I was like, wow, man, I'm gonna think, because this guy's 9'6", that he's probably played basketball. But you know what? I've met some really tall people that never played hoops in their life. Okay? So if I made that assumption, all right, and I came to you and I gave you the Hardcore Health magazine with all the athletes and everything, thinking that was what's going to speak to you. But let's say that your passion is cooking. See, I'm letting my preconceived notion of who you look like you are
then that would be the publication you handed me.
Exactly. But if I handed you the other one, I'm not even bothering to find out what your hot buttons are. I'm just assuming that I know because you're a big tall guy.
Right.
So funny. You know how you could do it though? It's by me just asking. Hey, Shawn, you're a tall guy, man. Did you ever play any basketball? And
I remember that direct question. And do you remember what I told you? No, I didn't. Thanks for asking. I was actually a horse jockey. And you lost it like, what in the hell are you talking about? And I had to explain to you briefly that 6 legs are indeed
faster than 4.
And that's when we hit it like peanut butter and jelly, man. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's really what it's about. It's about find out what the person's real hot buttons are. Don't assume that when you're talking to somebody that even if they have really poor health, that the thing that's going to get them to react is the possibility of them improving their health. Because sometimes that's not the possibility that they care about. The possibility that they care about is somewhere else. And it's kind of our job as a distributor to find out what that is. And the way you do this is by asking questions. One of the things that I think I know it probably coming from me because I can talk a lot, okay? I can, and I know that, okay? Coming from me, some people would go, wow, man, are you the pot or the kettle? You know, because I tell people, look, learn how to ask questions, then shut up and listen to those. Listen to the response. Because if you learn how to ask the right questions, the person will tell you exactly what they need to make a buying decision. But we're so almost programmed to think that we have to tell people things. I need to flex my mental muscles, and I need to impress this person with all of my knowledge and everything. When the reality is, they don't want to hear from you. They want you to allow them to talk. They want you to get a better understanding of what they want by simply talking to them and letting them talk. So if you learn how to ask the right questions, in most cases, that person you're talking to will tell you exactly what you need to know for them to make a buying decision. We just have to be willing to be able to, we have to be able, I think people are willing, just maybe in some cases not able, to shut up. Stop giving information and start absorbing information from the people that you're talking to.
No, well, cool, dude. Listen, here's the bottom line. You've really talked to us about the water, and you've been kind enough to give us your story. Man, I can't thank you enough for that. As we're tying it into the business and like just at this stage, I mean, it's been 12 years, 11 and a half years for you. I got mine in November 13th of 08. So I've just stepped over the 10-year mark myself.
Right.
And I've been pretty blessed. I've moved almost 500 machines, not really understanding things. I should be a 6A too, but I'm still flirting around at a 6A with a couple of 5As just brewing right now. Can you speak really quick finally to the whole market penetration, where we're at, number of homes in this country,
sure.
The number of machines out there? You have that info, right?
Yeah. So basically, when it comes to the global marketplace, Enagic, it's funny. Enagic has sold more machines than pretty much all of the other brands out there combined. They've sold over 1 million machines. And which when you first hear that, it's like, oh my gosh. But then when you think about the fact that there's 7+ billion people on the planet, 1 million all of a sudden becomes a much smaller number, and that means if you're 1 in 1 million, there's 7,000 of you on the planet.
Wow.
You have to put it into context like that. So as far as market penetration is concerned, we haven't come anywhere close to anything. However, it's really, market penetration is going to increase as consumer education increases. Because once consumers actually understand the technology better, they understand the long-reaching ramifications and benefits of this type of technology by integrating it into their lives. They are then going to have a better understanding of, why this technology is important. And that's when the market, see, there's different aspects of like the way a market rolls and everything. And we're still, as far as the percentages are concerned, we're still at the infancy. But what people have to understand is that because of the nature of the product, we have a percentage of interest that is just off the charts, okay? at this stage of the game, you should talk to about 1 in 100 people that can even conceive what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay? 1 out of every 100 can even conceive it. They can even wrap their head around this. However, the actual numbers are usually more like 99 out of 100 can at least conceive what you're talking about. Why? Because it's based on water. There is a good enough basic information and knowledge about the fact that water is a necessity of life. So you've got these little contingency pieces that come together that allow our introduction percentage to be much, much higher than it ever should be. And that's one of the things people have to understand is that that's one less Goliath that we have to tackle, okay?
Right.
So the basic understanding of water, the fact that it's there, is actually very beneficial for us as distributors. So when we get out there and we're talking to people and they're listening, understand that where we are in the actual percentages, they shouldn't even be listening to us. They should literally be looking at us like, I have no idea what language you're speaking. What are you talking to me for? But we're not. So we have a great advantage in that way, which means the potential on the business side is still astronomical.
Enormous. Yeah.
It's gigantic. The other thing is, this is not a narrow consumer base. The one thing everything needs on this planet that is alive is water. It's the one thing everything needs, okay? Well, that opens up a pretty big market if you actually think about it. It's not just, see, this isn't just for, this isn't like the little blue pill. It's just for like guys over 40, you know? No, this is a little wet pill that's for a newborn to a person who's on their deathbed. Everybody in between, every animal, every plant, you know, that they have their different needs and everything. So there are differences, but everything needs water. So it creates this huge marketplace that has so much untapped potential, and that is why we have to work harder. Because I'm going to tell you what right now, anybody out there who's watching this as a distributor, you might think that, you know, oh, I don't know very many people, I don't this. Let me tell you what, there's people out there who don't think like that. And they're going to go out there and they're going to be prospecting every single person that they can talk to. And there's going to be a day where you're going to go to talk to somebody about buying a machine, and they're already going to own one from somebody else. Yep. That's the reason people need to get out there and just attack this, because even though we have a huge open marketplace, it is going to become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller as more consumers know about this, and there's more distributors out there spreading the word. So right now, I mean, you want to talk about the perfect storm of potential? It's happening right now. All these different things coming. Technology's coming together. The materials are coming together. Knowledge is coming together. Consumer awareness is coming together. All these different pieces are just coming together, and boom, and you've got this just potential that is astronomical when it comes to what a basic individual can do. Not somebody with an MBA or, you know, with big degrees or these amazing talents. These are going to be everyday normal people who happen to be at the right place, the right time. They're going to wind up millionaires as a result of putting out some effort. And that's what's happening right now on a small scale, but it's about to explode onto a much larger scale just because of the timing where we are right now. You know, people have to remember, this whole thing has been 45 plus years in the making. Where we are right this second. All these different pieces are all coming together. And I'll tell you what, you're either on the ship as it goes out to sea, of the sea to success, or you're standing at the docks wondering what the heck happened. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like there's so much potential, and I think that, you know, on the business side, it is a good time. I mean, one of the things I wanted to mention, too, is, you know, there's a resource website. It's going6a.com. It's exactly what it says, GOING, the number 6, the letter A.com. Free resources. There's all sorts of stuff there. It's also where you can get, like, you can order Ride the Wave, and you can get the Heads and Tails magazines and some of the other things that we've got. But, you know, take advantage of those type of things. Seek out the things that are going to give you a competitive edge in this business. There's stuff out there, and, you know, it's funny. I've talked to people, and I tell them, yeah, you know, go to going6a.com. And they're like, the what? And I'm going, how long have you been in this deal? Right. And you didn't know that this was available to you? First thing I'm thinking is, who's your sponsor? Whoever it is, you should go smack them.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't share that information with you, it's like, wow. But you know what? Your sponsor might not share that information with you. That's why it's important that you assume personal responsibility for the success or failure of your business endeavor. And that means find out what's out there. Find out what's going to benefit you, give you an advantage, and make your job of spreading this information, getting water into people's hands, and ultimately getting this technology integrated into their lives. Take advantage, take any advantage that you can to make that process easier and more efficient. And that's really what it's all about.
You know it. So what you're basically saying in the instance of the business end of things and just the penetration and just the presence of this product in the homes is that the wave we're riding, the wave we're surfing is about to get tsunami style here.
I think it's getting close. This is how I gauge it actually is on public interaction. I'm always carrying this thing around with me. This is my personal drinking bottle. I drink 2 to 3 of these a day. When I go to a restaurant, I set this right on the table. When they come up, what's the first thing that they ask you at a restaurant? Can I get you something to drink?
Water?
Yeah. And so they'll come up and say, yes, hi folks, can we get you something to drink? And I will always respond the exact same way, which is, actually, I'm going to have the weirdest drink order for you of your day. And the reaction's usually the same. Really? Okay, give me your best shot. I'll say, okay, I need an empty glass with a straw. And they look at me and they go, do you want ice? And I said, nope, empty is empty. Just an empty glass and a straw. Okay. They come back, got my empty glass and straw, they set it down, and then they say, can I ask? And I'm thinking to myself, I was hoping you would.
Yeah.
And then I say, yes, I drink this special water from technology from Japan, and I start filling it up, blah, 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 blah. Wouldn't leave home without it. This to me is more important than the American Express card. I will not leave home without it. And,
nice.
And I've actually sold a waitress from a restaurant before as a result of just what I do, okay? It's gotten to the point where now I'll say, yeah, I'd like an empty glass with a straw, and they'll look, and then I look over at my water, and they go, oh, is that alkaline water? Aha, the masses are finding out. So at this point, people are hearing it. They're hearing the buzzwords, alkaline. There's now being alkaline bottled waters. People have to understand, though, those are just mineralized. Those are filled with if that's what you want, go down to Home Depot, buy a big bucket of lye, L-Y-E, the stuff that you decompose bodies with, okay? Buy a big bucket of lye, and then go to your tap water, fill up a glass of tap water, and dump some lye in it. There you go. It's alkaline. Now, it's going to kill you when you drink it, but it's alkaline. What people have to understand is that, because the consumer base is just now learning about this information, it's very easy to dupe them. It's very easy to convince them that what's happening, that because something looks similar, that it's the same. Nope. A Timex and a Rolex look very similar. But they are not the same. And we all know where the differences are. It's in the craftsmanship. It's in the body. It's in the materials that are used. So people need to not just jump on this alkaline water bandwagon. They need to understand that the right type of alkaline water, which is alkaline ionized water, it's the ionized that's really the big component when it comes to the full-reaching health benefits when it comes to good hydration and proper hydration. That's what they have to look for. So I actually wrote in the consumer guide toward the back, there's an article that's called The Alkaline Bandwagon, and it talks about the fact that you're going to start seeing more and more products that are promoting alkalinity and everything because people are trying to grab market share until the consumer wises up. Because once the consumer wises up, all of those goofy drops and pills and cheaply made machines and knockoffs, those are all going to fall to the wayside. They're all going to fall to the wayside. They will be gone because once the consumers actually understand what the real difference is, they'll say, oh, you know what? I don't need that because it's not what's going to benefit me. It's a low quality knockoff that is trying to trick me with appearance instead of convince me with effect.
Yeah, patronization at its worst.
At its finest.
God. Hey, well, listen, man, you've been absolutely phenomenal today, as expected, man. It's just really good to have you on board. I know JJ's mind has been saturated. That brain cell that he's got, he minimizes it, but my man indeed has a big brain cell, and yeah, he's kind of the guy behind this whole scene. So we've really taken it and got it rolling, and we've had people coming on, and we're going to continue to do what we're doing. But just from me and experience personally, it's like, hey, this is a cat that's really been the primary resource guy that I got from the get-go. So to be able to have you on the show today and just be able to yuck it up and do our things and yammer around, as JJ likes to put it, with some obvious relevance and knowledge, I just can't thank you enough for jumping on board with this. JJ, you got
it's my absolute, first off, it's my absolute pleasure, Shawn. I appreciate even being invited to do something like this. I'm always humbled by the fact that, there's people out there that appreciate the things that I've done. It makes me feel like I did it for a reason, and it really, that's really the thing that makes me, continue forward with this whole thing. So I appreciate you guys even, extending the invitation for me to participate in this. I hope that something that was said is able to resonate with somebody and maybe, give them that extra glimmer of hope and direction, that they can do this, because anybody can do this. You just look, man, there's people that are making money in this thing that have no business making the amounts that they're making. They just don't. And it's because of the strength of the project and the strength of the product. And it's like when you have those two things, man, I can guarantee you this. Anybody can become a successful race car driver if they've got a good enough vehicle. Okay? Right. You can learn how to drive, but you can't make a Yugo become a Ferrari. It just doesn't work. Okay? So I just appreciate you guys having the faith in me to even invite me on to this, to be a part of this. So it's been my pleasure to be part of the Kong family show, man. I really enjoyed this. I always enjoy talking to you anyway, Shawn, JJ. It's been a pleasure as well. And I hope you guys will, have me on again sometime in the future.
Yeah, we will. We will. Once we get everything ironed out. Go ahead, JJ.
I am just so incredibly humbled that you're willing to come on here, because so many people that are up there in the higher echelons of companies like this, they're too good to come out and share their knowledge and share their stuff unless they're being paid to do it. And, that's one of the things that I've really loved about the Kong family, as I call it. And, I call it Kong's water because the beautiful lady in the machine, she calls it Kongan water. She doesn't call it Kangen water. And, and so my first thought that came to my head was that big gorilla. And I'm like, well, how do you think he got so big? Because he was down to that waterfall out in the jungle. He was Kong's water, and ultimately, this has been the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I've been involved for a couple of years. At first, I wanted nothing to do with the business. I just bought the water because it made sense. After I watched Daniel's hour and 50-minute speech on the stage, and my wife did, and we decided to buy the machine. But once I started understanding, I started feeling the effects. I started understanding. I started studying it every morning, and I realized, holy moly, I have got to share this. I've got to. I have to go out there and share this to the world, to everybody that I can, even if they're going to hate me for it. Like pretty much all of my family hates me, doesn't want anything to do with me because I won't stop talking about this water. And the reason I created this Kong family was because I wanted to get information out there. I wanted people like you that would come on here, that would share their stories, share their information, share their understanding, because it is going to touch people. What you have come here today, Gerald, and said is going to impact people, because this is being recorded. It's going to go up onto YouTube. And this is something I want to say to all the people that are going to get to listen to this. I hope you people understand the value of what you have just gotten today. What this man has been so gracious to come here and share with us, because he has spent an hour and 40 minutes of his valuable time to come here and educate us about this incredible product, this incredible life-changing experience, this incredible vehicle to success. And literally, it is a life-changing thing. And the more lives you change, the more you have the ability to accomplish the goal of the Kong family, which is we just want to change the world. And
well, JJ, I could, if I may, just add something real quick on that. If I ever get too big for my britches, I would appreciate a good swift kick to the ass, because if I ever get to the point where I think I'm too big to lend my experience to try to help somebody out, I don't care if it's their first day in this business. If I ever get like that, Shawn, you got a good leg reach, pal. If that ever happens, you have an ongoing invitation to give me the swift one to remind me where I actually came from and where I need to stay. Because
no, yeah, you might be a Cali boy.
Hey man, in my opinion, anybody who thinks they're too cool for school,
yeah,
you know what? You're not. You're not, and it's your obligation if you can help somebody else. Look, the way I look at it is, this is just like me walking down the street and coming across somebody who's hurt. I would never, I don't care who it is, I would never just, well, if it was, there's maybe a couple people, I would walk away. But for the most part, if I ran across somebody like that, my obligation as a fellow human being is to stop, do what I can to help them. Okay? Might not be much, but I got to at least try. If I ever forget that, I need a good swift kick in the butt, okay? And I would appreciate it from anybody who's hearing this, if that ever happens, because I try to keep myself grounded as much as possible and realize that, this thing is a lifelong pursuit that we have here when it comes to this whole life thing. And I need to be continuously trying to improve. And one of the ways that you improve is by helping other people improve. So I appreciate what you were saying, JJ, but if I ever get to the point where, my head can't fit through the door, go ahead and take a pin and pop that damn thing and let me get back to what I need to know, which I'm pretty sure that won't happen, but I definitely appreciate, like I said, having the opportunity to come on here and talk to you fellas and, share some of the information that I hope in some way will be able to help some other people. So again, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity, you guys. I really appreciate it.
One last thing that I'd like to add to this, Gerald, just towards you, is that, if you ever want to come on this show, anytime you've got a new something going on, usually at the end of every show, like the last question I ask people is how do people get a hold of you? Because you might be the one that somebody out there resonates with. They might think I'm knucklehead and they might think Shawn's ugly, but they might love you and they might want to work with you. They might want to be part of your team or something.
Well, hey, wait a second. If they think Shawn's ugly, I don't know if that's a person I want to deal with anyway.
Yeah.
So, because, look at it. He looks like he just stepped off the cover of GQ magazine, for Christ's sake. Come on, man. Look at that. Exactly.
I always ask people to give all their contact information, share what they're doing so that they can resonate, because this isn't all about me. It's not all about Shawn. It's all about the family, and it's about helping each other. And so I always want to, try and help people connect. Anybody that comes on this show, I always want to give them an opportunity to share out who they are, what they are, where they are, what their contacts are, whatever, if they so desire. You've already given out all of that information. If there's any more that you would like to give out to people, then I'd love to let you do it. And
sure. Basically all I'll say is, I have the distributor resource website is going6a.com. It's available to any distributor. There's all sorts of stuff on there. I really recommend you check it out. There's even a video library with a bunch of even prospecting videos that you can use to share information with new prospects. If you're on Facebook, I'm under Gerald Kostecka. And so if you want to look me up and maybe shoot me a private message or something to introduce yourself, I get people asking me questions literally from all over the world. So whoever's seeing this, by all means, send me, if you'd like to chat with me. I typically will contact people back. Sometimes it takes me a little bit longer than others, but I do respond to people and, try to answer the questions as much as I can. So that's pretty much the easiest way. I'm by no means hard to find. If you put my name in on the internet in the search engine, you'll find a lot of stuff, because I've done a lot of stuff, not just in Enagic. I've actually done quite a few things in my short but fulfilled life at this point. So, if you'd like to get in contact with me, by all means, feel free to. And I'm here to help. So if I can be of assistance, be of help, by all means, reach out and let me know.
Wow.
This interview has been
there.
absolute Enagic quality platinum, man. And I'm telling you, this will keep going like the Energizer Bunny for a long ways to come. Hey, look, I appreciate you jumping out of the gates with us on this. And I look forward to being able to have you on the show again as we continue this journey that we're all on. I appreciate you coming into our neighborhood for the day, man. And I just asked you to give that gorgeous Susie Q, that's me, a hug and a kiss from Brother Wetzel and the kids. Yeah, man, tell them hi, give them my best until I get down that way and knocking on your door at 3 a.m. some night, just completely
with the suitcase in hand.
Right. Until then, hey, no, I'm thinking about you. Hey, and I do got to tell a little quick, just JJ, I was with him during a stage of this vegetarian kick, and we went to this little place where we went, and there wasn't meat on the menu. And I'm looking around. I said, "Yeah, I'm from Montana." He's like, "Listen, I'm from Nebraska." Exactly. So there's so many things there. And I remember whatever the hell I got was delicious. I couldn't believe that there was no meat in the dang thing. It almost tasted. That was wild. But yeah, that was my first step ever, and it was in Irvine or wherever the heck you were at the time. And yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, I'm just really glad you're on board. I really thank you for what you do for not only but your last 10-year commitment, 11-year commitment to anybody that's been on board, people that are coming on board. It's just fantastic to have a cat of your caliber in the brother fold, and we are just thrilled to have you on the Kong's Family Show today. So until the next time, man, let's just be blessed and continue to do what you do, and I'll try and make my way down into one of these things. I'd really like to get to California and San Diego. I hope that's something that we could connect on. Just still trying to juggle some things schedule-wise for June with baseball and little things for my kids, So. Right. But till I see you again, I'm sure I'll reach out to you here and there, and I'm going to get my hands some of these heads and tails packages myself. Got to do it, man.
Sounds good, buddy.
Love you,
buddy. Man. Love you, brother.
I love you already, man. Thank you so much for coming in with us, buddy.
Kong, give Give them a HooDeeeHooooooo.
Relax, boys. Love you, kids. You guys have a great one. Until next time, you have yourselves a great day. God bless.
Giddy up. All right, gentlemen. Rock and roll hoochie coo like Rick Derringer and Johnny Edgar Winter. We out. HooDeeeHooooooo.